Hey, this is Jeremy. I wanted to do a quick gear review from my Sierra trip. Just get my thoughts together on what worked and what didn't. This may be helpful to some others. There's a lot of videos out there of experts that know exactly what they're doing. It may be interesting to some people how a novice approached it and how the mistakes I made in gear and the things that I liked. I think that type of thing would interest me. Anyway, I've a couple of decades ago I did a good bit of backpacking. I've been through Teton. I've done about 4 or 5 days in Glacier. Been through Canyonlands. Used to live very close to the AP in Maryland, so I've been on little bits of the AP many times. Done some backpacking in Virginia, but that was a long time ago, and I really haven't done anything really in at least 20 years. So up until this year, so I went out a few nights earlier this year, and went on some group trips. Went out on one solo overnight, first time I'd ever been out by myself. And then at the end of September this year, I went to the High Sierra for a few nights solo, which was great. Went in Bishop Pass, into Ducey Basin, down through LeConte Canyon, up to Muir Pass and back. It's probably like a 34-mile round trip, I think. Not very far for an experienced backpacker, but it was very steep. I was carrying a good bit of gear, so it was, it was just pretty hefty little hike for me. I loved it. It was supposed to be a 5-day, 4-night trip. I did the final 2 days. I compressed them into one very long day. Hiked out in the dark. I was congested. I wasn't sleeping too well out there. Everything was great, but I wasn't sleeping well at night because a little bit of an allergy. So I only was out there for 3 nights, 4 days. It was a good long hike. Lots of elevation change. I mean, I went roughly from 9,000 feet to 12 to 9 to 12, back to 9, back to 12, back to 9, whatever that adds up to. So it was a good little piece. Anyway, again, this just helped me get my thoughts together on my gear, what worked, and then I've got a trip coming up in 2 weeks, just an overnight with a bunch of guys. This may be helpful to some of those guys. I'll share it with them. So that's about it. I'll get into the gear that I took with me and the gear I wish I had and what I wish I'd left behind. I was pretty heavy. I was 44 pounds, which is way too much. One day I did a round trip. I did a round trip up to Muir Pass, and I left like 12 pounds behind, stashed it behind a tree. All right, here's all the gear. Let's see what we've got. First up, backpack Osprey Atmos AG65. It's nice. It's fairly new. I've only used it. I've only had it this year. I've used it a few times. I think this is like the cattle, or rather a Mercedes of packs. I think it's got tons of features, tons of comfort, and I think it's too much. It's 4 pounds. I think it's gonna go on eBay soon. Sell it, get something different. I'd like a Miata. Everything you need, nothing that you don't. I mean, I'd like to get down to closer to a 2 pound pack. This has pockets everywhere. Again, very comfortable, but it's too much. I didn't take that on the trip because it wasn't going to rain. That's a pack cover. Sleeping bag. I like this bag. I've only used it on that one trip so far. Nemo Disco 15 degree. Very comfortable. Good features. Stuff sack. I didn't take that on the trip. I just stuffed this down in the bottom of the pack, but I liked it. I like a pillow. I didn't take this, one of these inflatable pillows. I did take this pillowcase that I cut in half. My wife sewed it, made a smaller pillowcase. It's a little mini pillowcase, and I stuffed it with extra clothes. Worked pretty well. If you have extra clothes, if you have extra things that you're not sleeping in. Let's skip over to here for a minute. Tent. I took this one-man Alps Mountaineering Lynx 1. It's a great tent. It's a budget tent. I think it's a very high-quality budget tent. I think this tent goes for sub $80 on Amazon. There's the fly down below there. It's comfortable. It doesn't ventilate well. It's a little hot in there, although that wasn't a problem on recent trip. For under $80, it's fantastic. I think the build quality's good. It's not light. Let me see what the weight is on it. I'd like something lighter. One-man tent is great because you can fit it anywhere. It doesn't have a large footprint, but it's nice. It's nice to have more room in there to move around, even if you are by yourself. The tent was a 4-pound tent, so for 4 pounds, you got to come way up in price, but you can get, you can get a 2.5 pound 2-man tent. Quite expensive, but not less weight, more room. But it's a great tent, and I think it's a great starter tent. I also have this REI Halftone 2 Plus. That's a large, let's say on there, 4-pound, 14-ounce tent. It's a good size. It's heavy. It's a nice tent, but again, I'd like to get lighter. I'd like to get around 2.5 pounds of tent. I took with me this sort of ubiquitous Thermarest Z-Lite. I liked it. I also took with me, I did this not really for comfort, I did it because I thought it'd be cold. It was about 35 degrees at night. I took also this sort of cheap inflatable, and I doubled them up. This is 17.1 ounces. It was very comfortable using both, but that's a lot of weight, so something's got to go. I probably want to get an inflatable that has a decent R value. I don't even know what this is, but the Thermarest is great. I mean, you can't go wrong. It's bulky. It's nice at camp. You can sit on it. Has other uses, so it's a nice thing to have. I won't go too in depth on clothes. Pretty personal stuff. I will mention these shoes. I purchased these nice Ultra Zero Drop. Forget which model this is. These Lone Peak 3.0 shoes before the trip, at least a month before. Wore them a good bit before. Very comfortable shoes, very comfortable, but they weren't as comfortable as these. These Nike Zoom Trail Runners, good grip on the bottom, are just really nice. So I wore those in Sierra. They were great. I didn't regret it. My feet didn't hurt at all, ever, the whole trip. Steep terrain, rocks, feet were fine. Back was hurting because I was carrying too much gear, but feet were fine. I don't like to hike in pants, shorts, but I brought these somewhat lightweight Under Armour pants for the evening when it did get cold. A cheap thermal suit from Amazon. I think this whole suit was $23, something like that. T-shirt, hat, jacket, relatively inexpensive. I think it was under $100. This down jacket from Eddie Bauer. Leaked a little down. I think they all do that at first. Good little stuff sack. I liked it. It was great. It's very warm. I got these outdoor research gloves out there in Bishop. I was glad I had them with me. Neck gaiter always. I think this is a great piece of kit to always have with you if it's going to be cold, no matter what you're doing. I wore these toe socks. I'd never had a pair of these before. These are just cheap ones from Amazon. Wore these toe socks underneath these darn tough socks. These are great. I strongly recommend this pair, this combo. These are, I don't know, 5 pair for $20, something like that. You can get more expensive ones. These are like $22 socks. They're worth it. They're wonderful. My feet, my feet didn't hurt the whole time. Nothing. No blisters, no rubbing, nothing. Obviously a beanie. I didn't take with me this sort of water-treated anorak that I had. Didn't need it. It wasn't going to rain. Buff, courtesy of F3 Louisville. Very useful. Keep the sun off my neck, etc. Let me go around. Let me go back over to the food a minute. So I took way too much food. I took 131 ounces of food, whatever that is. It's got to be somewhere around 8 pounds of food. And I had this Bear Vault, which closes in on 3 pounds, this thing. Mandatory out there, at least where I was. Not fun to carry at all. Cooking kit. When I got out there, I couldn't find these small cartridges, these 110, so I had this 250, which is probably at least half full still. I would have rather taken one of these with me, or two, just for redundancy in case one of them goes bad. I'd rather have two small ones than the one large one. This Stanley, I like this Stanley cook pot. I like it a lot. I guess you can get this thing on Amazon. It's great. Got a lid. This is just a cheap cup, but it's got measurements and it nests right in the Stanley, which is good. E-Tech City, self-igniting. You can get a little lighter than this, but it was fine. The stove, backup lighter, long spoon, so you can get down to the bottom of the mountain house. I took several of these Ziploc bags. These are good for trash. They're good for everything. I don't think I'd go out there without 3 or 4 of these. They don't weigh anything. I bought this just before I went. This is an MSR frying pan. It's a nice pan. I was going to cook fish, and I did catch trout out there. Took a little bit of this olive oil, spatula. I just brought this in case I wanted to grill over the fire, although we're under fire restrictions out there, couldn't have a fire. I ended up leaving it behind. I had too much weight. I just couldn't deal with it. I was all set with what is this? Hungry Man, hash browns, and powdered eggs. Powdered eggs are actually pretty good. So you can basically cook up, scrambled eggs and hash browns with this little bit there. And I tried it. I tried it at home before I went, but I didn't end up taking that on the trip. This is not all the food I took. I took tons of food, but it's representative. Mountain House meals, freeze-dried coffee, honey. These Belvita things are good. They get a little crumbly. They can break up in your pack a little bit, but they taste good in pieces nonetheless. Plenty of bars. This bar is great. It's like a dessert. Ramen. This is good stuff. I don't always see this in the supermarket, but this pre-cooked chicken breast. Cook the ramen. Dump the chicken breast in for more protein. It's pretty good. I think I took some protein mix a little bit. I took a couple of these, at least a couple of these. This bison jerky. These are good, or some sort of electrolyte powder. You get sick of drinking water, and you want to rehydrate. It's nice to drink those in the evening. And I think this trash bag I brought to put my sleeping bag and things in case it rained, which it did not. Going to water purification. I use this these Canuck bags, 2 of them. There's lighter, easier ways to do this. It's just the way I did it. So with the Sawyer flow in the middle, dirty bag into clean bag, but then I end up dumping the clean water into, I didn't take this size, I took 2 1-liter smart bottles with me, but it works. It wasn't bad. You can squeeze it, which is a little bit of a pain, or you can hang it with just a little piece of paracord, let gravity do its thing. Also, having this kind of top for the smart water, you can use it to back flush the Sawyer. I also took this other Sawyer as a backup. It's pretty redundant. Novice, so I did that. I took this was full. This 750 milliliter flask. I filled it with port. It was nice to have a glass or almost this much, 3/4 of this mug of port at night before bed 3 nights. Port has about 30% more alcohol by volume than, say, Pinot, so it's good alcohol to weight ratio. But this was heavy. This was a big thing to do, to carry port in there. I don't know if I do it again. I also took some bourbon. This bladder belongs to a friend. I didn't fill it up. I just took some bourbon, which I don't know if I ended up drinking, even though it was pretty good bourbon. Tissues. I got congested out there. I actually really needed those. Don't skimp on these. I took this out there because I thought it was lighter, but it's a pain to smear this stuff on your face and on your arms. Even though this weighs a little bit more, this is just so much easier to use, these little aerosols. Sunglasses, I took, this is a smaller, lighter bottle I put it in, but this was bug spray, deep woods off. I didn't need it out there, but of course I need it around these parts. I had this little 30 SPF sunblock, lip block, whatever you call it. It was good to have. I needed this. My lips got very chapped out there, and I really needed this. I was hurting, so I won't leave that behind again. Didn't need this, fortunately, but I'm glad I brought it. I think I will always travel with this. Doesn't weigh that much. If I came close to getting hurt out there, it was definitely 2 or 3 times close to doing my ankle. And if you do it and you don't have something like this, could be sorry. I like this little pack towel. I forget how much it weighs, but it comes out of this little holder. I used it for washing myself up. I tucked it under my hat to keep the sun off my neck. It doesn't weigh much. That's a good thing. I took some of this biodegradable soap out there, and I forgot it. I left it in the little cabin I stayed in the night before I went in. I put about half of it in a little bottle like this and left it in the cabin. So, why do you need soap? I didn't need it for cleaning the cooking gear. You need it for cleaning your hands. You can't, I had access to water the whole time. You can scrub your hands as much as you like if you don't have detergent. If you don't have something to break the surface tension of the water, you can't get the dirt off your hands. You don't need to, but it's nice to. So a little container with just drops of soap would have been nice. I took this bug net. I know it can get buggy out there. This doesn't weigh much. I didn't need it, but it's a nice thing to have around. Toothbrush, petroleum jelly, chafing, bad. Take care of that if you need to. This, I got rid of the cute little first aid kit. This is all I took, just trying to conserve weight. There's even some matches in here. I'm trying to think what I was short on. I was congested out there. I was allergic to something, so I would have liked to have more antihistamine. I ran short. I've got an antidiarrheal in there. I've got ibuprofen, but I needed more antihistamine. This thing's heavy. Look on here, forget how heavy, but 1500 mAh. It's got a little lamp on the back. It's got a solar panel on the front. I think the solar panel can sit. You have to sit in the sun all week to recharge the entire thing, but you can trickle charge it while you're hiking. I'm glad I had it with me because I was shooting a lot of video, and I was using up the iPhone battery. But for shorter trips, or if I'm not going to shoot video, I think I would take a smaller version of that. 13 ounces. This thing. It's pretty damn heavy, but it's rugged. It's got this nice handle. I like it. I took this last minute decision. I had this shipped to Whole Foods out in Vegas and picked it up when I left the airport in Vegas. I'm glad I had it. Didn't need it. Was able to send a couple messages to the wife, tell her I was okay. I was able to check the altitude on it. Could have checked the weather, although the weather was perfect. I didn't need to. Very nice little device to have. I think this thing's mandatory. This doesn't weigh much at all. You might not need it, but someone else may. A friend of mine was on the trail in Adirondacks, came across a kid that was not well equipped, and obviously the guy's not going to get in the sleeping bag or tent with him. They had to give him something. They had to help him out. They gave him one of these, and I'm sure his tip was wrap yourself inside your sleeping bag in this if you're cold. So I never heard of that before. That was good. Obviously bring the power cord for one of these. A little bit of paracord. I like to hang things up, string something in the trees, get some stuff off the ground when I'm out there. It doesn't weigh much. Knife, not necessary, but it's nice to hang a pack or something from a couple of those little lightweight beaners. You can go overboard on flashlights. Obviously, headlamp, very good to have. I hiked out in the dark the last day, so I did need that. This is nice. Someone told me about this. This very lightweight. It's got watch batteries. This little night eyes light that clips inside your tent. It's great. It's a great little device. This is backup, but it's very good backup to have and does not weigh much. I really like these little Cyclops hat brim lights. Let's see, what else? I took way too much camera gear. I got to think that through more. I took this big, heavy Amazon Basics tripod. I took this gimbal extender. I took the gimbal. I took this DJI Osmo Mobile 2, which I'm using right now, which is heavy. I didn't take the case with it, but I did take this waterproof bag to cover it up when it was lashed to the side of my pack. I took extra lens for the iPhone, wide-angle lens, heavy. I took this Rode external microphone, which works very well, but it's just more weight. This, my brother loaned me. These are great. These aren't that easy to find either. These Eagle Claw telescoping, very lightweight telescoping rods. Worked. I caught several trout out there. Little lightweight reel, few lures. I took this, the first time I'd used them, I took these Canuck folding poles. They're great. I mean, I don't know how many times I came close to snapping them in between rocks, so for that reason I'm not a fan of those tents that require you to use the poles to stand the tent up. I also have a couple pair of these, what are they, BAFX Products aluminum hiking poles. These are $23, $22 on Amazon. They're great. I think they're very good. They're sturdier than these lightweight poles. So, although these are pretty convenient since they break down like that. Anyway, that's pretty much all the kit. It weighed in at, let's see, it was about 44 pounds of gear, which was way too much. Part of the reason is that Bear Vault, I brought way too much food out there. I gave some away while I was out there, but too much food, too much booze, too much camera gear, and I could probably shed 2 pounds on the pack, and I could probably shed close to 2 pounds on the tent, not quite. So base weight, consumables were 15 pounds. I think that included 2 1-liter bottles of water that I hiked in with. It did. Base weight doesn't mean so much to me because, obviously food and water you're carrying is applicable. So the base weight's is 28.5 pounds, consumable 15 pounds. Anyway, I got to get weight down, but I hope this was helpful. Sort of some things that worked for me and some things that did not.